Hey everybody, Aaron here, and this is another anime review. Today is going to be the 88th review, and we're looking at InuYasha. So, InuYasha is, was on my top 10 most boring anime list, and I know I got some flack for it from not people per se that were watching on YouTube, but more so the people that I talked to outside of it, telling me, "Oh, how can you put that in your most boring anime? That was a great anime." And I told people I even told people during my video. I said that it's not that I hate the show by any means. I just consider it boring. And I'm going to talk about that in today's review. I'll explain in further detail why I think what I do. But let's talk about some of what makes InuYasha InuYasha. So the main story starts off with a girl named Kagome, who she's your typical high school student. She's like she lives in a shrine. She goes to school. She's not really say per se bored with her life, but she finds no meaning right now in her life. She's just going about her average day typically. One day she notices the well in the back, which she really hasn't paid very much attention to, but you know now it's coming up and she's looking at the well, and through a series of kind of spoiler-esque events that I'm not going to say fully because I don't want to do that, she falls into the well. But the well is not your typical well. What it actually is a teleportation device that sends her back to the feudal era of Japan, where she meets a half human, half demon named InuYasha, thus the name of the show. And from then on, what she actually is trying to seek is the thing called the Shikon Jewel, which actually allows one wish to be fully granted and gives immense power to whoever wields it. And she thinks, well, maybe that's a good way of me getting back, or maybe that's a good way of ending what's happening around, because she then learns that the feudal era she's living in right now, or well, she's been transported to, excuse me, is very messed up. There's a lot of stuff going on with demons and various creatures. You have an enemy named Shishomaru who's going about destroying things and stuff like that. Inuyasha's hell bent on stopping this guy. And what you get from the whole show though is just your kind of typical romp through. You meet other characters like Moroku, who's kind of a pervy. I want to say, what is he? He's a monk. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of it for a second. He's a pervy monk, and you got um, Sango, who's another demon hunter essentially. She fights with a giant boomerang. It's your typical kind of cast of characters, but Inuyasha came out during a time period where it wasn't typical yet. We were starting to see this growth of like adventurous type shows, but it wasn't happening a lot yet. And that's why, Inuyasha was something very cool for its time. It was very different. Kagome as a main character was a female protagonist essentially, and even though the show is Inuyasha, she took the main lead as to talking about certain things and seeing the world from her perspective, and that was kind of unheard of. I mean, it wasn't that it hasn't been done before that, but it wasn't done a lot. And I think Inuyasha was both meant for male viewers and female viewers because both could actually enjoy the show and like it because of what they did with the characters. Now, Inuyasha, I put on my top 10 boring list for two reasons. One, I do have issues with it constantly. It has a lot of pacing issues. There are times where you get a lot of filler episodes, and Inuyasha is around, I want to say, almost 200 episodes around that, maybe a little more, or maybe a little less. I didn't actually look up the exact number for it for this review, but it is a pretty long show, and there are a considerable amount of times where you just find filler episodes, filler episode, filler. It's like you have an arc maybe that's maybe 15 episodes long, and then you'll have another arc which is 20 that are just filler. And it kind of reminds me of that Bleach syndrome that Bleach does that quite a lot, where a lot of it's just not per se character buildup. It's just there to kind of reinforce characters already. It doesn't actually have any progression in terms of what characters grow and what characters learn. And that's my biggest issue with Inuyasha. It wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for that reason. Now, overall though, Inuyasha is not a bad show. It's really not. It's a fun show. It's got a nice cast of characters. Inuyasha himself is really cool. I always think he's really cool. He fights with a giant, like essentially a sword that's made from a fang, and he gets a different version of it later on. But he really does some cool stuff with it. Like he creates these giant wind tunnel attacks and all that. Miroku, who's one of his teammates later on, has a hand that's possessed and cursed. I mean, more so cursed, where it actually can open up and create a black hole that sucks in anything that's in front of it, essentially. And it's just a lot of cool stuff that goes with the show that people don't remember about it, because I think Inuyasha now is kind of fading from people's memories, and I don't want that to happen. Anime Lover just reviewed Inuyasha recently, and it was funny because I planned on reviewing this today actually, but I laughed because I'm like, oh, she reviewed it too, and I thought that was funny. I'll put a link in her channel for mentioning her. But overall, though, InuYasha is not the best show in the world. I think it's a good show. It has great animation. It really does. I mean, especially for the time period it came out in. It has a nice story. I like the ending for it. I think the ending wraps up everything very nicely, and a lot of questions are asked fully. I think it had a good send off for a show this long. There were movies. I'm not going to review the movies per se. I've seen all of them. They're your mixed bag. I think a lot of them, again, they're like Bleach movies where they're filler. They have nothing really to do with the series, more so just kind of side stories. They're not bad. There's some of them that are okay, but if you guys want me to, I'll do a review of them. But I don't think anyone's really gonna asking me to do reviews for InuYasha movies. But anyways, guys, if I had to give a review of InuYasha A through F, I have to give it a good B. I think the show stands at a B. It's it does have its really boring moments, and that's what kills the show for me. It kills the trend of it because the character progression gets lost in the translation. Essentially, you have times where just nothing happens or nothing eventful happens. That's one thing I hate about any show. But overall, you get a show that's fun to watch and it's enjoyable for the most part. That's why I give it a B. I think it really is a show that you can watch now and still get a lot of fun out of kind of seeing the comedy / action the show has to offer. Anyways, guys, that's it for this day's review, though. I hope you guys liked it. As always, like, comment, subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And as always, until our paths cross again in the next review, have a good one, everyone. Bye.